A lot of people are quite curious when they either thinking of downloading and installing a free DAW like the Studio One Prime version 5, or have already downloaded and want to find out what the limitations are of a free software. Well, in this video, I'm going to try to cover the most important limitations found in Studio One version 5 Prime Edition. Of course, the limitations are not limited to the list that I'm going to give you in this video, but these are the major limitations in the Prime Edition. One of the main limitations in Studio One version 5 Prime Edition is no third-party VST support. You cannot install and use third-party VST plugins like compressors, EQs, reverbs, delays, etc. And also, you cannot download and install any VST instruments, like any other sounds, like pianos, strings, synthesizers, brass, anything else. You cannot download and install it. Now, this may be a major feature you are looking for in a digital audio workstation to create your music, but Studio One version 5 Prime Edition does come with some plugins. As a VST instrument, you have Presonus, and in Presonus, it comes with lots of different instruments like bass, combinations, drum kits, effects, guitar sounds, keyboards, percussion, strings, synths, vocal effects, wind and brass instruments as well as some plugins, like the Empire Amp Simulator. A beat delay, the channel strip with low cut, a compressor and an expander, and a 3-band EQ, a chorus, flanger with modulation, mix verb, a reverb module with gate, red light distortion module with 3 stages of tube simulation, a digital tuner to tune your guitar, and a comprehensive VU meter that also includes a correlation meter, an indication of how wide is your audio signal. And if you do purchase the add-on features of the Pro plugin bundle, you also get a professional compressor, a gate that includes sidechain feature and many more options, the limiter 2, the Pro EQ 2, a 5-band EQ module with low cut and high cut feature as well as the new 12-octave display. You also get the room reverb, a highly customizable reverb module. So as we can see, by adding the Pro module bundle, we have all the tools to create a professional music production. I will leave a link in the description to Presonus website where to download the Pro plugin bundle. Now looking down to the comparison list between Studio One Prime, Artist and the Professional Edition, even though it mentions unlimited buses, tracks and plugins, though tracks and plugins is correct, but we don't have buses. When we open up our mixer and we right click, we can only add effects channel, not bus. Now in most cases you may not require a bus, but with a lot of workflow, buses really help to combine multiple channels into one single bus, where you can combine the plugins rather than having all the plugins on individual channels. You can combine them into only one bus. An example would be, let's say, backing vocals. So instead of putting an EQ and a compression on the backing vocals, you can set the output of each of the channels into a bus and put one compressor, one EQ that controls all of the backing vocals. Same goes an example of the drums. Fortunately, that is not available, even though it does say unlimited audio and instrument tracks, which is true, virtual instruments, which is true, and effects buses, which is true, but no buses. I do have a way to create buses using the effects channel. So we can create an effects bus, and we can actually select all of our channels. I'm just going to select those channels using my mouse and the shift key, and I can select the output instead of going to my main mix to go to FX1, and I can call this my bus. So all of these channels, their output, instead of going to my main mix, will go to my effects bus, and I can add my channel strip here, which affects all of these channels, and the output of this effects, in quotes, bus, will be sent out to the main mix. So I can control the overall volume and etc. And I do have a video for the prior version of Prime of how to do this. Of course, having a bus, it means it has an added feature where the effects channel doesn't have it. And the difference is a send feature, where you can send a signal to an effects. Unfortunately, effects cannot send to other effects. Now, this may or may not be the deal breaker for you, but it still is a limitation. Now, a final limitation demonstration for Studio One version 5 Prime, I think, is also the inputs and outputs availability. In Studio One Prime Edition, and this has always been the case, you can only have two inputs, a stereo input, or left and right, or two mono inputs. In our matrix display, as you can see, I have my Behringer UFX 1604 mixer connected, which has 16 inputs. Even though the mixer can output 16 independent channels, I can only record two channels at a time, in stereo mode, left, right, or two monos. Of course, I can select channel 3 and 4, or 5 and 6, and apply. As you can see, it won't work until I select the two monos as well of the same channel. So I can select 9 and 10. So I have inputs left, right as channel 9 and 10, and I can only have channel 9 and 10 as my mono source as well. Of course, I can add channels. It says input 1. Let's assume I'll move them there, and I can add another one and apply. So I can have more inputs. Instead of it being indicated as input left, input right, input 1, input 2, let's assume I have my synthesizer connected to 5 and 6. I can add a stereo one. I can call it my DX50. And there we go. So I can select DX50 when I'm creating my track and enable the matrix here for channel 5 and 6, and it will record from channel 5 and 6. I hope that's clear enough. Going to the output, we can only have one main stereo output. We cannot add any more outputs. In this example, my audio interface supports 4 different outputs, or 2 stereo outputs. So I can select 1 and 2 or 3 and 4. So those are the input-output limitation. That means if you are trying to record a live band, even though you may have an interface that has multiple inputs, like generally up to 8 inputs, which in my case I can record up to 16 individual channels, whether they are microphones or line level inputs, Studio One Prime won't allow me. But of course, don't let that stop you. There are other programs available that allows you to record your live performance, and then you simply import those audio stems, the multi-track recorded stems, into Prime. An example of the program, which I have demonstrated a few years ago on my channel, is the Waves Tracks Live. It's a free download that allows you to record multiple channels using your laptop and export that into WAV files, and then you can import it into Studio One Prime. Though it has been discontinued, but it's still available and it works with all operating systems. So don't let this limitation stop you from creating music. There are other options available, always. I have over 60 videos that cover Studio One Prime Edition that shows you how you can manipulate what's available, be creative, and still produce a professional sounding music production. Well, I hope this video answers all your questions about Studio One version 5 Prime limitations. If you have other questions about other limitations, feel free to comment below. I'm more than happy to answer them for you or make future videos explaining those limitations and hopefully workarounds as well. Till next time, as always, thanks for watching and have a great time making music. Cheerio, guys.